Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is James Terry with another episode of JTZ TCG. We're coming at you looking at the next set we already have translations for. It is the Shocking Volt Tackle, or we know it as Vivid Voltage. So, a little bit behind getting these videos out. I had opening season for softball and baseball with my son and daughter. Just posted video for Champions Path yesterday. I'll be getting this one posted tonight so we can start taking a look. This is a big set of cards we're looking at that'll be coming out in November. We already have the set that came out for Champions Path. It's 75 cards, some of it looking to really shape up the meta. Of course, we're getting the Shiny Charizard V and then the Rainbow Rare Charizard VMAX. So just a big, exciting week in the world of Pokemon. We're getting translations and releases for 2 new sets. We got Champions Path this month, and then we have Vivid Voltage coming out in September. So today we're going to be checking out the cards. Again, there's roughly 100 cards in this set coming out for Shocking Volt Tackle. It will be coming out in Japan next Friday, Shocking Volt Tackle will know it as Vivid Voltage. And in this set, we're seeing some of the cards that were also in Legendary Heartbeat, which was across seas for the release of the Pokemon movie. And we're getting some of those cards mixed between Champions Path and this set. And some of them are very exciting just because of the potential they have. So we're going to go ahead and get started, take a look at. Very first thing right off the back is, of course, Pikachu, the number one most well-known Pokemon since the dawn of Pokemon, is, of course, getting its staple in its own set. We get this big, huge Pikachu with this cool Charizard art on the Japanese pack. So that's pretty cool. Rightfully so. Pikachu just pretty much deserves a spot somewhere in almost every expansion. And when we take a look at it later, you can decide in the comments below if you think it will be a contender in the Tier 1 meta. So, getting started, and just to throw out there, Pokemon doing a great job with all the artwork in these last couple sets. Me personally, I do the openings and the collecting more for competitive side, but here lately I've been finding myself holding on to some of these cards just because the artwork looks so cool in them. Me and my kids are excited for them. So Pokemon just doing a great job in these last couple sets. So kicking it off is actually this brand new Shiftry that we're getting. So we get Seedot, then Nuzleaf, and then Shiftry with 150 hit points on a stage 2. Now, where this card is really going to start messing people up and strategies and maneuvers that we're used to in Dex is this ability. So its ability is Tango's Proxy. So as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, so it does need to be in the active spot, the effect of each supporter card in your hand now becomes draw 3 from the deck. So it doesn't matter what supporter your opponent plays, whether it's Boss's Order, whether it's Marnie, Research. Basically, they are all Hop now. Every supporter becomes Hop. So you're reducing a big part of everybody's strategy. Everybody runs Research to mill their hand, get more cards. A lot of decks that focus on Disruption, of course, plays Marnie. And then, of course, you still got the big tag teams like Malo and Lana, Guzma and Hala, Cynthia and Caitlyn. All become draw 3. And its attack really isn't that bad either. For 1 grass, 1 colorless, Fan Tornado, does 110 damage, and you may have your opponent switch their Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. So you're hitting for 110, plus you're getting that swapped out. So maybe able to make some sniping work in that mix while, of course, disrupting it with this ability. That's just going to be a huge effect that we're going to see placed around and played around with in decks. I can already first see it now. So very definitely interesting to see how that gets utilized. So the next one that's actually very interesting, and I don't think we'll really see a lot of play with this in standard format right now. I can see people playing with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we get a new Ninjask, and of course, without Ninjask, you can't have the Shedinja. So, and this has a nifty ability that once you evolve it from the Nincada, then you get to search your deck for the Shedinja and put it onto your bench and then shuffle your deck. So where this becomes interesting, and let's scroll down here and continue off of it instead of waiting till later, is the ability or the attack that Shedinja has. So for Shedinja, it is a basic, and it has only 30 hit points. And in the ability on Shedinja is this card can only be put into play with Ninja's Shell Out ability. You cannot even start this card on the setup of a match. So we have a couple conditions here. You can't use it for setup, and if it's in your hand, you can't play it to the bench. You can only get it out with Shedinja. Here's why, though. So we have this attack called Squeeze Life. So for 3 colorless energies, you get to put damage counters on your opponent's active Pokemon until its remaining HP is 10. Now you combine that with, say, the likes of Slowbro V, put the poison condition on it, that's KO. We've seen something similar to this, of course, with Raticate in Expanded. It utilized the Hypnotoxic Laser. It utilized Shrine of Punishment. It was able to take advantage and abuse double colorless, triple acceleration energies, and then get your opponent's Pokemon down to 10 and use Hypnotoxic Laser or Shrine of Punishment and take the knockout. Now, with that being said, Shedinja is a basic. So with this 3 colorless, we are not able to use the triple colorless. You would have to do either a welder box engine where you could get the 2 fire and manual attachment is, in my eyes, the best way to try and get this card to work. Or you can try the manual attachment with a twin energy on the following turn. But again, with it only having that 30 hit point count ratio and bench sniping being huge in the meta right now, I don't see this working in standard format. But expanded, oh yeah, we can definitely make that work. So let's scroll back up here. And we get a new Gogoat. Not really relevant. And our first V's and artwork on Orbeetle. Very requested. Everybody was looking for this thing to become a V in VMAX, and now we have it. So it has a respectable 180 hit points, so pretty standard for a V. First attack for Grass Energy does 20 damage, and you can switch this Pokemon onto your bench. And then for 1 grass, 1 colorless, does 50 damage plus 30 more for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Alright, so has a leg it can stand on if it's out there on its own, but this, the big giant alien flying saucer beetle, is what we're looking at here. So it has a 310 hit points and a very nifty ability that can be stacked if you were to have multiple Orbeetle VMAXs in play. So let's take a look at it. Once during your turn before your attack, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you can put 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. So if we play Bird Keeper into one and then switch into another one, or we use U-turn board with it only having 1 retreat cost, or Air Balloon, we could potentially get 3 Orbeetles flipped and flopped, not even 4, into the active spot and do 40 damage across the board to your opponent. And then its attack just gets stronger upon the VMAX evolution. So same thing, 1 grass, 1 colorless, Gmax wave. 50 damage plus 50 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. Most Pokemon, bare minimum, are running on 2 energies. And even so, it's kind of average at least 2 to 3. So you just take 2. So that's 150 damage. Plus, if you get even a rotation of 3 Orbeetles throughout your turn, that's potentially 180 damage. So you could get a knockout, say, on Crobat V. You could get a knockout on Dendeni, or set up a 2-hit KO for next turn. So Orbeetle definitely having something to play with. Fire weakness is a little downplaying on it, but it's definitely something to look at in the meta with this Wonder Beam ability. moving along, we could not have Vivid Voltage. We could not have Champion's Path. We could not have Darkness Ablaze without a variation of Charizard. And Vivid Voltage is no different. So in this set, we do get a new Holo Rare Charizard. And if you watched my last video, we had got a Scraggy that was partnering up with a trainer card. And as we see more of these cards come out with Champion's Path, these Pokemon get utilized with a lot of these specific trainer cards, and Charizard is no exception. So it does have 170 hit points, which is awesome. You combine that with a big charm, that's 200 hit points for a stage 2. That's pretty expectable, especially for a big Charizard. Now, if you look at its ability, once during your turn, you may look into the top 3 cards of your deck, put one of them there into your hand, and discard the other cards. So you have a way to pull a card, but this is where this comes in handy. So for 2 fire energies, so you can use Welder Box and get both energies on, it does King Blaze. So it does 100 plus damage. This attack does 50 more damage for each Leon that we're getting a new trainer card in this set in your discard pile. Now, what Leon does, it is a supporter card, and when played, your Pokemon do 30 more damage. So potentially, if you have all 3 in the discard pile, you play one of the Leons for your turn. So now we have 4 in the discard pile. That's 200 damage, plus the base 100. That's 300 damage, plus the Leon. That's 30 damage. That's 330 damage. You are knocking out even VMAXs at that point, with the exception of Snorlax VMAX and Eternatus VMAX. So if we were maybe to mix some, Galarian Zigzagoons in there and use that Headbutt, of course, what this is a stage 2, we could utilize Scoop Up Net theoretically in this deck and then play that with the Zigzagoon. And we can take one-hit KOs on those big VMAXs also. So Charizard, definitely a contender to look at coming up in this set. In this new set, we also get a new print of Eevee evolution lines. And they all come with this neat ability utilizing a new item card we're going to get called Memory Capsule. So, and we'll take a look at that later on. But Memory Capsule, but just like its prints before, is basically once attached as the tool, the Pokemon that's in its evolved state can use an attack from its previous state. We saw this a lot with the Dragon Majesty's Charmander using that Reprisal attack here most recently. But these ones don't even really utilize that for that. It's just a condition on the energy, and it's to do a lockdown on specific type Pokemon. So Flareon, for example, if this Pokemon has Memory Capsule attached to it, each grass Pokemon in play has no abilities. So very specific type of denial in the deck. So this is more aiming at, of course, Orbeetle with it coming out in this set, the Rillaboom with the grass attachment ability. So that would lock both of those down. Moving along, we do have a Magcargo that's kind of pointless as far as an attacker. Does do 180 damage, but at the cost of 4 energies. Now, this is one of the cards I'm most excited for, as well as most people, as far as a competitive meta, is the Talonflame V. So, unlike Crobat, unlike Dedenne, we do have 190 hit points, which makes it very much harder to one-hit KO or bench snipe while it's on the bench. With something else we also get is it has no retreat cost. So this is very easy to maneuver around. Now, what makes this so cool is the fast flight. So for 1 colorless energy, you can use this attack on your first turn and discard your hand and draw 6 cards. So if you're going first, of course, you can't play a supporter on your first turn. You play out your quick balls, you play out maybe your evolution essence, whatever you get out of your hand, and the rest of it's just hosh posh. You can use this attack, set up, and get a new hand versus having to try and make your hand work, or hopefully top deck a supporter if you didn't have one in your hand, and this just sets you up. And then even more so, with it being utilized in a fire deck, it does have a decent attack. So for 2 fire, 1 colorless, Charisma and Wings does 160 damage, and you do only have to discard 1 energy from this Pokemon. Typically with fire Pokemon, we see you got to discard 2, you got to discard all. So it's actually very good that this one specifically is only a energy. And it can be any energy, whether it's a fire or if you're attaching all fire, which using in a welder box deck, that's probably what you'll be using. So Talonflame definitely going to be big in the likes, in my opinion, I think, of Crobat and Dedenne V, especially decks that are looking to try and discard cards. Decks just right off the back that we have right now that can really utilize this, of course, would be Mad Party. So this could potentially take the place of, Crobat V, or thrown in there and replace something else and just be utilized as another discard option in the deck. So next EV evolution is Vaporeon, and just like Flareon, has the same ability, but when Memory Capsule is attached, it does cancel all fire Pokemon in play that have any abilities. So again, very specific. It's really going to determine how after Champion's Path comes out and then Vivid Voltage comes out, that if we start seeing any of these EV evolutions really get utilized or played. Of course, the biggest ability used in the meta right now and abused is, of course, the Zacian V Intrepid Sword. And unfortunately, none of these EV evolutions have a lockdown where they can prevent metal energies, or else I think we would already have people really excited about these. So in the next, going with our Wailord V that we're getting in Champions Path, we do get a holo version of Wailord in this set. So does have 200 hit points, but has a nifty ability where once you attach water energy from your hand to this Pokemon, you get to heal all special conditions from it. So we can't be confused, can't be paralyzed once we do the energy attachment. And rightfully so, every time you attach an energy, Hydro Pump for 4 colorless energies does 40 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. So big energy count, but potentially big damage, and of course big HP, with it being a giant whale, and the little whale more of a swimming with them on the side here. So a decent card, maybe might see some play with Wailord V, we'll have to see. And now we get one of our starters. So we move down here, and we get a new print of Samurott. So Samurott does have 160 hit points, so pretty decent for Stage 2. And then if it has an ability that we're seeing with quite a few Pokemon, is it takes 30 less damage from attacks. So now you're turning into 190 hit points. You put Big Charm into play, now we're talking 220 hit points. So pretty decent. And then we have its attack, Aqua Wash, for 1 water, 2 colorless. It does 120 damage, and then you get to return 2 energies from your opponent's active Pokemon to your opponent's hand. So that's pretty big energy denial. We have seen Pokemon, of course, where you can kick 1 back, and that really can set your opponent back some. But now we're talking 2, but of course with metal decks, and this one has a weakness of lightning, luckily, versus the ice Pokemon do have weakness to metal. We still have Metal Saucer, we still have Turbo Patch, we still have Duraludon that has that attack that allows it to attach an energy from the discard pile. So it has some denial to work with, and has potential, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now our next V is the Galarian Darmanitan V. So this one has 220 hit points, which is actually pretty good for a V. And its first attack, 1 water, 1 colorless, Frozen Headbutt, does 50 damage. And if you get a flip a coin, get heads, it's now paralyzed. So we get a status condition off of it. So not bad. You won't be really utilizing this for attack, but that's a leg to stand on while you're getting set up. And if you do have to use this to its full extent, for 2 water, 1 colorless, does Freezing Fist, does 190 damage, plus you got to do 30 damage to yourself though. But now we get to the VMAX. So Galarian Darmanitan VMAX does have 320 hit points, so definitely a good size. Has big energy cost, but rightfully so. So 4 water energies, Max Snowfall does 200 damage, plus his attack does 30 damage to each one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So every one of your opponent's bench Pokemon is taking a 30 hit to it. Doesn't matter what it is, it's taking a 30 hit. So definitely going to start seeing a spike in Mew from Unbroken Bonds. We're having a lot of bench snipe just coming through, and then of course later on in this set we do get a new tool card that does even more damage when you're applying bench snipe damage to GXs and Vs. So definitely going to be seeing a lot more of Mew from Unbroken Bonds, I think, utilized in decks. Moving along, we do get a new Dreadnought. Has a decent attack for stage 1, does have 140 HP, which really makes me question how Decidueye only got 140 HP being stage 2, but you know, he is a giant turtle. For 1 water, 2 colorless, full power wave, does 80 damage. If you played Nessa, which is a new supporter that we're getting in this set, from your hand, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So if you play Nessa, you're doing 80 damage plus causing paralyzation, forcing your opponent to have to switch if they want to try and do anything. Now, here's something very exciting. I've already read about this deck. I've already seen ideas for this deck. I can definitely see it getting up there as a 1 Pride Cards attacker. I can already see people kind of putting it in the underrated status. And those same people thought Mad Party would be that way. And now Mad Party's up there kicking it with Eternatus and all the rest of the Stage 1 decks. So let's take a look at it and admire this Cramorant having a nice snack on this Arrokuda. So pretty cool. Cramorant becoming a real big fan favorite in Pokemon. Of course, we already had Camerant V, very popular in decks. Now we have a basic that is going to deal massive amounts of damage once he's at a full course meal of these Arrokudas. So let's take a look at it. For 2 double colorlesses, so twin energy, you can do Continuous Barrage. So this does 60 damage, and you may discard any number of Arrokuda from your bench. This attack does 60 damage for each Arrokuda discarded in this way. So full bench of Arrokuda, discard them all, 240 damage. 1 prize card attacker for a 1 energy cost attacker. I am so all over this. Mad Party is a huge favorite deck of mine that I've been playing online, doing very well against top tier decks. I can definitely see this Camerot deck doing the same type of damage, and it's just got all kinds of cards to support it. So Arrokuda in itself can support this line as well. Does have 60 hit points. But if you were here to start with it for 1 colorless, you can search your deck for 2 Arrokuda and put them on your bench and then shuffle your deck. So it is colorless, so I can put a Capture Energy on this, go get my Camerant, or go get another Arrokuda, and then get 2 more Arrokudas on the bench, and now I've got 3 set up on the bench. If Arrokuda happens to survive the attack, which if we're going against, say, ADP, it probably will because it's going to go Alter Creation, then I can switch and wheel 240 damage into it. So very, very, very cool. And now, if they retreat, say ADP, we have something to clean it up. So we get this nice little fish evolving into this big ugly fish, Barraskewda. So for 1 water energy, it does Target Skewer. Choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. This attack does 20 damage to that Pokemon for each damage counter on that Pokemon. So even if that Pokemon only had 100 damage on it, you are now doing 200 damage on it. That makes 300 damage, knocking out the likes of all tag teams and getting you in close range of Pokemon VMAXs. So we see a trend here, like I said, with these 3 cards, and it's gonna be killer. And I mean, just absolutely abusing it being a 1 energy attacker. taking big attacks. It's going to be sick. I'm super excited for it. Let me know what y'all think about that one. That's one I'm really excited for. All right, the star of Pokemon, the most well-known Pokemon in the game is Pikachu V. So getting its own print here in the V and VMAX status with 190 hit points. So Pikachu getting even more than some of the other counterparts in its V. Let's take a look at its attacks. So charge, search your deck for up to 2 lightning energies and attach them to this Pokemon. I would really rather kind of have this as like maybe Bolttown, where it doesn't have to be this Pokemon. It could be to any of maybe your lightning Pokemon, but it does help set it up as long as it survives the turn and you don't get Intrepid Sword or Brave Blade, excuse me, on your opponent's turn 1 after you go. And then for 2 lightning, 1 colorless, does Thunderbolt, does 200 damage, but you do have to discard all the energies. But if we're going to do that, I would rather do it with this big, tall, chunky, Gigamantis VMAX Pikachu. Look how big this thing is. This thing is huge. It's like a big Pikachu pillow. So for 310 hit points, it's pretty good, especially for Pikachu VMAX. And it does have 1 attack. So it does cost 3 lightning energies, G-Max, Volt, Tackle, Pikachu specialty attack. Now we have it in a G-Max version. Does 120 damage, plus if you discard all energy attached to this Pokemon, it does 150 more damage. So you're potentially able to do 270 damage total at the cost of all 3 of your energies, knocking out pretty much any tag team out there. That puts you 10 shy, which we could attach a Vitality Band to get to the likes of a one-hit KO on ADP. But where this kind of falls short for me is this 120 base damage. You have to discard all 3 energies. Let's say your opponent throws, just a Dendeni GX out there to stall. You've got to discard all 3 energies to kill a Dendeni GX. So I'm not really for that. I'm not really on it. I don't think that's, unfortunately, a smart gameplay. That kind of sucks to have to, literally 2-hit KO Dendeni GX. If this set had 160 base and then, we went to 120 added by discarding all energies, I'd be all over it. But I'm not really for this 120 base. I mean, of course, we do have Tapu Koko Prism Star. We are getting a new Electrode that is down here. That does have a pretty nifty ability we've seen in all, or not all, but most Electrodes in the past. So once during your turn before your attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, does have to be on the bench, can't be in the active spot, you can knock it out. So at the price of losing a prize card to your opponent, you can search your deck for 2 lightning energies and attach it to a lightning Pokemon in play any way you want. So we've seen this with Electrode GX, got played around with for a little bit. We've seen past versions of Electrode GX. I want to say actually base set and evolutions had a similar type of ability where you can knock it out and use it itself and attach it as a special energy to provide 2 lightning energies. Now this one we can knock out and search 2 lightning energies out of our deck to potentially power this up. And then, of course, we could use Tapu Koko to get a 3rd energy, or we could just do a manual attachment and go and swing in for another 270 damage again. So we have ways to do this. It could also be partnered with Pikarom. The only thing I don't like about this either, which is how the meta is shaping, 200 damage plus is not uncommon to set up for a first attack for a VMAX attacker, especially in the likes of Eternatus, especially in the likes of Zacian V. Those are all well hitting over 200 points, which could easily knock out Pikarom. So we use Electrode, get 2 energies, manual attach. We can get full blitz off on Pikarom. Or let's say we knock 2 of these out, and now we've got 4 energies, manual attachment, Tapu Koko Prism Star. We do get 6 energies on. We're able to Tag Bolt GX, take a knockout on the bench, plus deal 200 damage to whatever Pokemon we do. But now you're trading 2 prize cards off using the electrodes, plus 3 prize cards off the Pikarom, potentially 4 if you're going against an ADP deck. So there's a lot of risk and take with Electrode being played in Pikarom or even Pikachu VMAX. But that's kind of, I guess, the stake of the game utilizing this card. There's no gain without the risk. So I'm curious to see how the idea of this gets played around with. Maybe later on we do get some more support for Lightning decks, and Pikachu does get a state in the meta, but right now I don't see it with the current cards we have going into it. So Jolteon, same thing as Vaporeon and Flareon. You attach a memory capsule, but with this one, all water Pokemon have no ability. So this is really looking at Frostmoth, in my opinion, to try and shut it down with more and more water Pokemon we're seeing get put into play. And that's kind of the biggest one as far as water types go. We do get an interesting new Zapdos. So it does have 110 hit points, and for 2 lightning, 1 colorless, does snipe thunder, and you get to discard all or you have to discard all energies attached to this Pokemon. If you do, it does 160 damage to one of your Pokemon's opponent, V or GX. So this could be set up for late game, early game. Take a quick 2 prize cards, use Tapu Koko, use the Electrode, or just work manual attachments and get that hit on Dendeni GX, or soften up a VMAX, then Boss's Order, and then you can get it up and finish it with one of your own VMAXs or another attacker. So pretty interesting. I think we might see this get utilized in the Lightning decks, getting paired up maybe with Electrode, and see it take advantage of that attack. We do get a new Zebstrika. Artwork very cool. Zebra, electric pony, zebra. But other than that, not a whole lot going on for it. We do get a new Electros. So this one does have 160 hit points. Pretty decent for a stage 2. For 1 lightning, does a stun fang, 60 damage, and then plus during your opponent's next turn, if your opponent attaches an energy from their hand to the defending Pokemon, you get to place 6 damage counters on that Pokemon. So potentially you can wheel 120 damage into your opponent's turn if they were to attach an energy to the defending Pokemon. So definitely makes your opponent have to think or possibly switch and make them maybe go in with a Pokemon they didn't want to prevent putting 60 damage on it. Its second attack, 1 lightning, 2 colorless, does do 120 damage, but at the cost of doing 30 damage to one of your own bench and 30 damage to your opponent's bench. Now we get a new print in the game for Alakazam V. It's been a while since we've seen Alakazam. I don't really think we've seen one, man, since I want to say Mega Alakazam, and maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure Mega Alakazam was the last major good Alakazam we saw in the set. This one has got actually 2 pretty interesting attacks. Let's take a look at it. So Thought Spoon, put 30 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. So basically a replica of Mew from Unbroken Bonds. And then for 2 Psychic Energies, Mind Ruler does 30 damage times the number of cards in your opponent's hand. So definitely kind of looking at that Zacian ADP deck, Eternatus. This does have the dark weakness, unfortunately, kind of making it a disadvantage for Eternatus, but we see these big hands with Eternatus decks, ADP and Zacian V decks. So if you ever thought your opponent was like, good God, they have a big hand, I wish I could just Marnie them down to 4, this makes you, okay, you can go ahead and keep those cards, because if you got 10 cards in hand, I'm doing 300 damage to you. So definitely something to be tossed in with Psychic decks to be used as a weapon. It could be just a 1 line in there, throw 2 quick Psychic Energies on it, and take advantage of a big hand your opponent just got, especially if they just took 3 prize cards, building their hand even bigger. We do get a new Dusknoir that has a pretty cool ability also. I don't think it'll be used too much unless there's a print of a special energy that just gets widely abused by everybody. Right now, it's kind of pick and choose based on what decks you're playing. But it does have 150 hit points. The cool thing about this, as long as the Pokemon is in play, it does not have to be in the active spot. Special energy cards attached to each brother's Pokemon have no effect, and they only provide one colorless energy. So downfall is this does affect you. Plus side, it doesn't have to be in the active spot. But again, outside, there is capture energy that's, of course, played in quite a few decks right now. So you could nullify the effect of that. But, of course, there's still quick balls. There's still Pokecalm. So to combat that energy, I don't really see that worth running in a deck. Now, if we get something like a reprint of double colorless energy, we do have twin energy, but V and V Maxes and GX decks are still ruling the meta. So twin energy doesn't see too much play outside of Mad Party decks and such. But if we were to get a reprint of double colorless energy or something of that sort, I could see that getting played a lot. We do get a new Swoobat. He looks kind of cute. Of course, he's got the heart for the nose. The artwork's really cool with the sunset in the background. But other than that, doesn't have a lot going for it. He gets to prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks done to this Pokemon, so no bench sniping on it. So it's pretty cool. Now we get a reprint of Whimsicott in a now Psychic version versus Fairy version. So Whimsicott looking all cute and fluffy and innocent, and he doesn't look like he can do a lot, which we know isn't true. When we look at Whimsicott GX and other Whimsicotts from days past, does have 90 HP. And for it's a first attack does triple draw, so you get to draw 3 cards from your deck, so maybe help you get out of a pinch with your hand. But here's the cool thing. So for 1 Psychic Energy, Fly Away Rush, 10 plus damage, and you may discard as many Pokemon tools from your Pokemon as you like this turn, and does 40 damage for each card discarded in this way. So if all 6 Pokemon, have a Pokemon tool card in play, plus your 10 damage, you are doing 250 damage. Now, with that being said, we don't have Adventure Bag right now. Pokemon tool cards outside of utilizing Boozman Hala would be kind of hard to come by and make this work. Now, in expanded format, this would just be super sick. I'm way excited to do this in expanded format because there are several Pokemon that you can use that actually allow more than 1 tool attachment. You've got Genesect GX that allows 2. You have a Siglify. I can't remember what set it's from, but it does allow 4 Pokemon tool cards attached to it at one time. So all 4 Signifies with the 4 on it, and you discard all 4 from each one. So that's 16. I don't even know what that is. 16 times 40 is just a ridiculous amount of damage, and you're knocking out any Pokemon. So pretty excited for this little innocent-looking, fluffy Whimsicott that looks like it's not going to do any damage. We do get a new Alcremie. We do get the 90 hit points on it, with it being a stage 1. Has an ability that once during your turn, when you play this from your hand, you can have each player draw 1 card. So you get to draw a card, your opponent gets to draw a card. Yeah, not for it. Don't want to help my opponent out. It is cute though. Now, we kind of looked at this Machamp. It was supposed to come out in Champion's Path. I think now instead it got pushed to Vivid Voltage. We kind of looked at this because I liked its first attack. Macho Revenge does 20 damage for each fighting Pokemon in your discard pile. And, of course, being utilized as a double weakness factor for Eternatus. Now, this Phanpy and this Donphan, also very excited for. Donphan, always been a cool Pokemon. I think it got to put on the back burner, unlike for myself and a small community of other people. We really love Donphan. It is a stage 1 with 150 hit points. Again, Don't know why Decidueye only got 140, but here we are. Stage 1's getting 150 or 160. Anyway, so Earthquake does 120 damage, and this attack does 20 damage to each one of your bench Pokemon. It's kind of rough, but 120 damage is pretty sick for one energy. And then Heavy Impact does 90 damage. But what makes this card exciting is it does have high hit points. And we get Memory Capsule. This is where wheels start turning. So I mentioned Reprisal from Charmander from Dragon's Majesty and how it was used for that attack once you got to Charizard and you got to deal just sick amount of damage. Well, now we get that in return with Phanpy here. So Phanpy only has 70 hit points. So return attack does 30 damage for one fighting, one colorless, 30 times the number of damage counters on this Pokemon. So if we get it evolved into Donphan and we get a big charm onto it and have 180 hit points with that memory capsule and we can keep him alive, we are going to be dealing massive amounts of damage. So pretty cool. I like the Donphan, I like the artwork, and I like the attack coming from the Phanpy. Hitmontop is a basic one we're getting another Pokemon utilizing its trainer for. So for one colorless, does Cycle Draw, discard a card from your hand, and then you can draw 3 from your deck. And then for one fighting, 2 colorless, does Twister Kick, 50 damage, plus if you played Bay from your hand during this turn, does 80 more damage. So for 3 energies, it does 130 damage. It is a basic. 130 damage is pretty good, but I'm not willing to sacrifice 3 energies to do it, or 2 energies because I could do a fighting and twin. Not really for it, but it's pretty interesting just seeing all these Pokemon being combined with their trainers. We do get a new Terracaron, so it does have 140 hit points, does 30 damage plus 30 less damage from your opponent, so basically turning into 170 if you were to use the attack. Now, this is the big attack that's actually makes this card interesting. 2 fighting, 1 colorless, ground power, does 80 damage, plus if you have to have the stadium card in play, this attack does 80 more damage. So, potentially dealing 160 damage. Now, let's say you had Martial Arts Fighting Dojo into play because you're behind in prize cards, which running this deck you probably will be, and you could also use Machamp in this deck. You're potentially hitting now for 210 hit points off of that. So definitely interesting fighting Pokemon trying to find its way into the meta, and I think it's going to get there little by little. We're getting cards to make it work, and especially with Eternatus having a fighting weakness. We did see the Sandaconda in the Players' Cup tournament do very well because of that. And I just think we're going to see fighting Pokemon evolve more and more and more into the meta because of that. We do get a new Graplock. We get the Graplock V in Champion's Path. This one has 130 hit points for a stage 1. And for its first attack, fighting Headlock does 30 damage. The defending Pokemon can't retreat, so you're making it stay. And then one fighting, one colorless, Tentacle Buster does 50 damage. Plus, if you used Headlock during the last turn, which you probably will, it can do another 120 damage. So you're hitting for the 170 plus the 30 from the Headlock on the last turn. That's 200 damage. That's pretty good for a stage 1. It is only 2 energies, also pretty good. Again, fighting decks finding its way in there, giving its tools. So we're seeing these Pokemon trying to get in there. We do get another V, and it is the awesome artwork. Galarian Farfetch V, and just jabbing that sword in your face. So pretty cool. It does have 210 hit points, has 2 retreat costs. Let's take a look at what it does. Does have an ability called Resolute Spear. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to active spot, you can move any number of fighting energies from your Pokemon to it. So basically, what we've seen with Heatran, once we move from the bench to the active spot, now we get to use fighting energies onto it. And for the 2 fighting, 1 colorless, it does Meteor Smash, 200 damage, and then during your next Pokemon or turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Easily reset with Switch, Bird Keeper, Molo and Lana. Many different ways to get this reset. It does only have 2 retreat costs, so we could even hard retreat it with Air Balloon and then switch it back to the active spot. So Galarian Farfetch V definitely, or Sir Farfetch V having some attacks and ability to work with there. Let's see what else we got that's interesting here. We do get a new Sableye. We do get a new Drapion V. Does have 210 hit points. The artwork looking pretty cool. Actually reminds me of can't think of the movie right. Oh, Men in Black. That's what it reminds me of. And the cockroach with the fangs coming out of his mouth. That's what this reminds me of. Sorry, had to think of the movie. But for 1 dark, 2 colorless, does rack down, does 70 damage, and then for 1 dark and 3 colorless, does 130 damage, plus you get to discard 2 energies from this Pokemon, and you could leave them poisoned and paralyzed. Now, is that worth 4 energies? I don't think so. Even for 1 dark and 2 colorless, I could kind of play with this, but that with 4 energy cost on a V, only 210 hit points. I'm not really for it. So moving along, we do get a new Crocodile. He looks pretty cool. He's got his shades. He's doing his jump attack, but his own attack is going to hurt him in the end once he crashes and burns. So moving along, we do get a new Garbodor, and it's pretty cool because it almost has the same Garbodor that we just saw tons of play with that had the Trashalanche attack. So let's take a look at this one. This one has the attack called Garb Cyclone. So 30 damage, its attack does 30 damage times the number of Pokemon Cools in your discard pile. So Trashalanche, that was just abused by every deck out there. It was for every item card in your opponent's discard pile, which made them really have to kind of choose and limit what they wanted to play, because as they discarded, guess what? Your Garbodor got stronger. This one is built and used around discarding your tool cards. That sounds kind of familiar with Whimsicott. Guess what? Whimsicott had psychic energies. This has 2 colorless energies, both able to be used together. So you use the Whimsicott. Of course, that attack only works in that turn. This is setting this up for the rest of the game. So now we have a dark Pokemon and a psychic Pokemon. That's pretty cool to try and get Whimsicott to work in the standard. And this could just be overly abused in expanded format. I'm not even going to talk about the ways that this thing could be utilized. So pretty cool. We do get another Galarian Berserker. It seems like we've gotten one of these in almost every set right now. But the artwork is pretty cool. He's bashing a boulder there. But outside of that, he doesn't have a whole lot going on for him. And then we do get another print of Aegislash-V. So Aegislash always been one of my favorite Pokemon. I like the whole sword shield combination. And just ironically so, we're in Sword and Shield era. So it would make sense he gets a V and V max stake in the card game. So it does have 210 hit points. That's, again, pretty standard for V. For 1 metal, 1 colorless, does slash, does 50 damage. And then for 2 metal, 1 colorless, Sonic Edge, does 130 damage. And you get to ignore all effects of your opponent's active Pokemon when doing this damage. So that's pretty cool. It does have a cancel effect on when it attacks. And then here is the big man, swinging with the big sword, defending with the big shield. Has 320 hit points, does have 1 attack. Giant Slash, 2 metal, 1 colorless, does 160 damage, plus 30 more damage for each prize card you have taken. So this is one of those where we could run a 2-2 line in ADP and Zacian decks, which in Zacian in its own right is fine by itself, especially since we also have Zamazenta. So maybe Aegislash get paired up with another Steel-type Pokemon. And this is late game. We've taken 3-4 prize cards. So 160, let's say we took 4 plus 120 is 280. And if you're using this in ADP, that of course gives you the Altered Creation. And now you're doing 310, which pretty much knocks out quite a few of the Pokemon VMAXs right now. So pretty cool. We do get another print of Drulodon. So we already see it being played. We have one copy being used in decks quite frequently. We get a Drulodon V coming in Champion's Path. Now we get another Holo Rare. So this one does have 130 hit points. Its attack, Raging Claws for 2 colorless, does 20 damage plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So especially with bench snapping going on, this could be a decent card, but I think the attack with energy attachment, Drulodon, is better. That's currently being played right now over this one. We do get a new Snorlax. Has an interesting ability at a price. I'm kind of curious to see if this gets played with. It does have 130 hit points, which is kind of low than what we're used to seeing with Snorlax. Typically, he has those high numbers, even though with it being a basic, he's usually somewhere in the 150, 160 realm. And if I think he had that, that would make this ability maybe a little bit better. But 130 hit points, I don't think it's really worth it. Excuse me. Whew. Baseball and softball, guys, tiring. So ability Fatten Up. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you can draw cards until you have 7 cards in your hand. But if you use this ability, your turn ends. So this can be a scapegoat to get you out of a dead draw hand. That's why I kind of can see this being played. Whether it's worth the bench space or not, because we do have Dendeni, we do have Crobat, we also have the Talonflame V now, so bench space is going to get really, really, really tight. So unless you're just playing a deck without Vs and GXs, which there aren't many, that's the only really way I can see Snorlax getting some playtime. So moving along, we do get a new round set of attackers. So this was semi-popular with Poliwhirl, Poliwrath, and Poliwag. What it was is it did 50 damage for each Pokemon you had in play that had the round attack, and Exploud and Loudred are hopping on that train. So for a stage 2, he does have 160 hit points. For the attack, it is only 2 colorless, so we can easily use Twin Energy, Triple Acceleration Energy, which is pretty cool. And if we were to have, say, the Exploud in the active position, and then we had a combination of 2 Explouds, 2 Loudreds on the bench, so that makes 5 Pokemon. That's 250 damage. Pretty good for a 1 prize card attacker. Poliwrath had its own respect, if you will, as a stage 2 deck because of this round attack. So I think we'll kind of see Exploud end up in that same area. So our new trainer cards that we're getting, Drone Rotom is an item card. You get to look at your opponent's hand and then look at the top card of their deck and then return it to the top card of their deck. So you get a peek at what they got going on. You get a peek at what they got going into their hand going into their next turn. I could see this being used for disruption decks, being, discarding cards from an opponent's hand, maybe Marnieing them. Once you see their hand, oh no, they're going to get set up next turn. So I can see this kind of be utilized in decks like that, but other than that, I don't see it getting a lot of playtime. Now, the thing that is kind of like the old, I don't know what it was called, but anyway, think of it as night vision goggles. And when this is attached to a Pokemon as a Pokemon tool, it does 30 more damage to your opponent's bench V and GXs. So again, bench snipe being huge. This is going to go phenomenal with Decidueye. Decidueye has immunity to V and GXs. It does bench sniping to bench Pokemon. So you could potentially do 50 damage to a Pokemon V and a Pokemon GX with this attached to Decidueye. We're going to see this a lot in bench sniping decks. I can't wait to play this with my Decidueye deck. It is going to be awesome. So this is that memory capsule that we saw with the Eevee evolutions that we are going to see played with the Donphan. It allows evolution Pokemon to take a step back and use previous attacks from their previous evolutions. We've seen it before. We see it get utilized really well, and I don't think this will be any exception. So Bay, this is the one that was used with Hitmontop earlier. It, in its own right, I think is better than being used in combination with Hitmontop. So this is discard the top 5 cards of your deck, attach all energy cards you find discarded in this way to your bench fighting Pokemon in any way you like. So it doesn't just have to be fighting energies, it can be any type of energy, and you can attach them in any way you like. It does come at a price, discarding 5 cards and milling if you didn't happen to have any energies, but typically in a deck like this, you'll have high energy count. So it's kind of a risk reward, give or take, which is not untypical that we see with fighting decks. Now here is Leon that we saw in combination with the Charizard. So during this turn, your Pokemon's attack do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So again, we do 30 damage. Plus having 3 more in the discard pile, using this one puts 4, and that's where we get that 330 damage in Contingent with the Charizard. So this kind of reminds me of Iris from back in the day. Iris gave you 10 more attack power. Based on the amount of prize cards you took, this one just grants you automatic 30 more damage, which can really help you out and fix some math. Vitality Band, does get you 10. Using the Galarian Zigzagoons gets you 10. With Scoop Up Nets can potentially, get you 50. This is just a surefire way. It does come at the cost of using your supporter for the turn, but it could be used in a pinch to get that guaranteed 30 damage. Now, this is an interesting card, and it goes in Contingent with Stadium we'll see in a minute. This is League Staff. You get to draw 2 cards. If Wyndham Stadium is in play, you get to draw 2 more cards. So a supporter that can basically get you a draw 4. So basically 1 more than Hop. Now, I don't see this card being utilized too much unless you're just gearing yourself up for whatever you've got to top deck. Maybe you Primate Wisdom something, and then this helps you get it back. But the Wyndham Stadium in itself is pretty huge, and it's just going to make Vs and VMAXs that much harder to kill, really. So taking a look at this is going to be a huge card. It's going to severely affect the meta, especially when it comes to trying to set up these 2-hit KOs. This is going to try and make it to where you kind of want to take a 1-hit KO now. Or if you can't, you're going to have to be prepared for basically a 3-hit KO. So whenever a player plays a Pokemon VMAX from their hand during their turn to evolve their Pokemon V, you get to heal 100 damage from that Pokemon. So typically if you're going first and you have your Pokemon V out, it's going to take damage. Okay? If not get knocked out in its own right. Now there's a benefit to having it out there because usually you wanted to start with maybe Jirachi, Stellar Wish, and then you had to find a way to switch around. Once you got your VMAX set up, this helps to where you don't have to do all that. So you have your V in spot, you get an energy attachment, VMAX next turn, heal 100 damage, and wheel damage because they're probably a V in themselves or a GX and start wailing into that combo of having to take the double to triple hit KO, if not a 1-hit KO. So this is a big stadium card. Big stadium card we're going to see get played in V and VMAX decks. So moving back up here, this was another one of our trainer supporters. And this also goes with one of my new favorite decks, I'm going to be playing with the Camarant and the Arrokuda and the Barraskewda. So Nessa is a supporter card, and you get to choose up into combination of 4 water Pokemon or fire water energies from your discard pile and put them into your hand. Does that sound familiar? Oh yeah, just discarded 4 Arrokudas to do an attack. I use Nessa, I get those 4 back into my hand. Okay? This isn't to the deck. This is to my hand. I get to play all 4 of those Arrokudas back in play. I just got to find another Cramorant, and I'm doing 240 damage again. Woo! This is amazing. This is going to be sick, setting up that deck. Super excited. So, our other stadium card we're getting is Hero's Bath. So, each basic Pokemon in play takes 20 less damage from their opponent's attacks. So, 20 damage, you don't think of it as much, but with his bench sniping going on, 2-hit KOs becoming very popular, Galarian Zigzagoon being played, 20 less damage on a basic Pokemon does help with some of the math. It's not a lot. Do I see this getting played a lot over other stadiums that we have to offer? No, I don't. But it is interesting to see the heal factor, because we do get Gardevoir V that gains attack power once it's healed, and it is a basic. Now, we're not talking about the VMAX, we're talking about V. The V can potentially do 200 damage if it was healed that turn. So you could eliminate the VMAX altogether, which the VMAX is great, don't get me wrong, but the Gardevoir has its own strengths and its own right, staying a V, and can use this Hero's Bath. It can use the can card for the Psychic, discarding the Psychic and healing 80 damage. So this can be used in tangent with some other cards, and it can be interesting. Now, we do get 2 new special energies, which is rightfully so. We did get a special fire energy. We got, the special color or power energy. So we're getting the rest of the sets flowing in. So the special water energy prevents all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to water Pokemon that this card is attached to. So no poison, no confusion, no status conditions of any kind, which is becoming more and more popular in the meta. Outside of the Zacian and Eternatus V decks that just whale you, this cancels all those effects. And then, of course, just to, give more fuel to the fire of metal decks and how unbeatable they already are, they get a special fighting, or metal energy, and the card is attached to has no weaknesses. So we do already see Metal Goggles being played. We do already see Metal Frying Pan had been played, but since it's rotated, we still have Metal Goggles that, prevents the weakness or reduces attack, and now this prevents weakness onto it also. So Metal Energy just Metal Pokemon becoming more and more broken. And they haven't released on what we're getting for the secret rares yet out of the set. What trainers, will get the rainbow rares and full arts. Which Pokemon are going to get full art and rainbow editions. We'll have to wait to see those. But that's the set, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. What cards are you excited for? I'm excited, of course, for this Talonflame V. I'm excited for this Cramorant. Pikachu, think you're cool. Giant Pillow, I don't think you'll be big in the meta. Alakazam, I think, is pretty cool. And then I'm pretty excited for this Garbodor and this Whimsicott. I can't wait to play these 2 and expanded. These are just going to wreck shop. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Make sure you hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos going over these sets. I'll be doing some TCG Online gameplay for you to check out. We will be opening some Champions Path. It does come out September 25th. So we got basically 2 weeks once the set releases. We'll be opening some of that stuff on the channel. Hoping hoping we get the Charizard Shiny V and the Rainbow Charizard VMAX. We didn't get to pull out of all the packs we did for Darkness Ablaze. We did not pull one Charizard VMAX. I want to say we opened like 300 packs. Hopefully that's just saving luck, going into Champion's Path. So make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Let me know what you think in the comments on what cards you're looking forward to. This is James Terry with JTZ TCG signing off. Got to catch them all, guys.